Welcome back, all, to the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm healthy Trevor, back from vacation and feeling a lot more rejuvenated. Yeah, no, vacation in the middle of free agency. That's weird, right? I know. Like, just kind of a gap day or two. It was kind of
Yeah,
nice. How was your fourth?
it was good. Yeah, a lot of fireworks. It
Is that like a that's definitely like an anomaly towards what we're going to talk about in just a second. It has to be, right?
probably a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. That's good.
It's been a week since we were last here. Uh, the landscape of the NBA has changed irreparably. Is
Which
that fair to
crazy.
say?
Well, kind of, but because technically the thing that would change the landscape the largest hasn't actually happened yet. So it's kind of like it's changed, but like with an asterisk. It hasn't actually happened yet. Like it's changed, asterisk, about to
Yeah.
happen, about to change. By the way,
Like
for
you said,
those that
it'll
are new
probably
here,
happen while we're recording, so that we can
yeah,
include it.
I said that earlier to Josh. I said, by the way, promptly, Kevin Durant will be traded exactly an hour and 30 minutes after this podcast gets finished. So, because everyone's new here, they know, like, as soon as they see a big news on a Tuesday or a Monday, they go, Josh and Trevor probably recorded recently. Yeah, we did. That's spoiler. So be prepared for us to react on Twitter to Kevin Durant being traded tonight. Obviously, that's a joke. He hasn't been traded as of. I always do this at the top. July 5th, 7:47 p.m. So here we go. We're going to talk about potential. I'm going to just say that again with an asterisk because technically that could be wrong by tomorrow morning. Potential Kevin Durant trade destinations, what they mean, potential wild cards, maybe just kind of throw some ones at the wall that we might not expect. There are a couple that I've seen that I was very shocked to see. So we'll go through those. We'll talk about the Hornets and the Lakers specifically and what they've done so far this offseason, what's happened around there. The Kyrie Irving piece of the Kevin Durant trade is part of that as well. What happened with free agency so far, the trades, and then I guess since Trivia's not here, everyone's favorite, Saving Sacramento. Shout out to TikTok. That TikTok did very well. We appreciate all the
Everyone's
TikTok
favorite.
followers. I hope. I mean, Trivia's not here, so they have to like something. So,
I
all right.
haven't gotten Sacramento Kings fans on board yet. I've really been trying on Twitter. If you're a Sacramento Kings fan, follow
Please,
us on Twitter.
yeah, please interact
You,
so we know
you
you're
have to
alive.
realize that things haven't been great. We're here to help. We really believe in your franchise.
Well, and I'm hoping that, and we can talk about it later, but I'm hoping that like people understand by now that the segment's not a joke. Like it's an actual like this is what we would do to try to make the team better. So it's not like at first they're going to see Saving Sacramento and they're going to go, are they making fun of my team or are they trying to help me? I don't understand. So hopefully they
I'm
understand.
making fun of Vlade Divac.
Yeah, and Monty McNair. Let's be clear.
Monty McNair, slightly less. I think Sacramento's
Yeah.
had a very good week, so
We'll talk about
I
that.
will say
They're on
slightly
my
less.
list. They're on my list, which is funny. Well, I'll spend very small amount of time on them, but we'll definitely talk about them more at the end. So let's rip the Band-Aid off. I don't have a ton with Kevin Durant trade destinations. This is
Can you
obviously
give me like your reaction first? Like, did you see? Because you were kind of in the boat you were in. I knew last week was okay. Kyrie opted back in. Everything's fine in Brooklyn now, and then all of
so.
a sudden that changed.
I didn't think everything was fine. I didn't vocalize this in any form or fashion. I didn't think everything was fine. You can't. I'm going to make sure I preface this the proper way. You can't rule out anything in NBA free agency. We've made that known, right? Like it's Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving just 3 years ago. I thought that offseason could never be topped. 2019 free agency. That was the greatest NBA moment. Honestly, the rest of my life, I don't think anything will ever top that unless the salary cap becomes null and void or 200 million plus, which it may eventually, obviously, and stuff like that happens again. But I didn't think that those two guys, is what I'm just going to say, guys, could top that 2019 free agency. And they proceeded to, those two guys alone, do it again. So I can't rule anything out. My initial reaction was, obviously, like everyone else in the Twitter world, shock. Like it was just a sure sense of, did I? I pick it back up and I go, Kevin, not Kevin Herter. Kevin Herter has to replace Kevin Herter. No, that's refresh, refresh, refresh. Oh, came from both sources. All right, now I believe it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
it's ironic as Mr. Herter actually did get a trade, but we'll come back to that.
I'm sure he didn't request it. Which is so. Yes, to summarize what I said, Kevin Durant's trade request was a large, in point to me, shock. But at the same time, I can't sit here and go, I cannot say I was completely blindsided. Like, I get the timing was off. Like, Kyrie had to because of the way it's set up in the CBA. He had to opt in on Wednesday. Why Kevin Durant did it the next day is beyond me. I'm still trying to sit here a week later to figure that out. I thought that's what we would
And
attack today.
even more, the fact it's not
I'm very confused.
Kevin's doing what's best for Kevin and leaving Kyrie behind. They still want to be teammates, just not in Brooklyn.
I'm trying to figure out how to make this like come off as polite and like media as possible, but at the same time, I don't really care. What I'm trying to get across to people who are like listening to us and like waiting on our reaction, which shout out to everybody. It's been a wild ride with this podcast. They're doing this thing, 2019, where Brooklyn has a good thing going. They have Kenny Atkinson, they have D'Angelo Russell, they have a good couple of young pieces. Jared Allen's still there, obviously going to get a payday in a couple of years. And they go to a place that's building something good, and they just change it and make it their own and get the full liberty, right?
Mm-hmm.
They spend 3 years together.
Tear the whole thing down.
Tear the whole thing down with them.
Start over.
And now they want to do the same thing. A team that might have something good going and go to it. Just the cycle of player empowerment. I'll be honest. This is the kind of thing I took away from this week. Was I think it might have gone a little too far. I think we've kind of got to a point where Joe Tsai's having to basically, regain all of the power he's supposed to have as an owner to be able to make these decisions. Where, don't get me wrong, in 2019, I would have done the exact same thing. I'd have backed the truck up for both of them. I would have been, I'll give you everything you want. Like, you're going to win me a title. But then you tell me you also want James Harden. And then you tell me you want and then, like, they literally don't have a pick for 11 years. Like, this is bad. It's 10, 11 subjectively.
One of the saddest things
I'm just floored by it.
Is not only did they not win him an NBA title, they didn't win him an Eastern Conference title. They didn't win him an Atlantic Division title.
See, I knew you were going to bring something like that to the table, so I also brought something like that to the table. I'm going to pull my phone up now while you're finishing your point.
They won
I'm going to read you
nothing. They won a playoff series.
Well, so
that's it.
They won nothing. Yes,
they won a playoff series.
Not taking into account the James Harden equation.
I don't think they won an Atlantic Division title. Let me double check. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, they probably didn't. Be honest with you. Like, they probably didn't. While you're pulling that up, it's kind of hard to do that. I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I hope they didn't at this point for the sake of the failure that it was. With throwing aside the Harden situation, right, where they get their guy, quote unquote, right? They go and get James Harden and they give up.
No, they did not. They got the closest they got was not this year, but last year. They finished second place, one game behind Philly, who won the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, I should have remembered that probably. But either way, you're correct. They didn't win one, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, we're sitting here thinking, and that's a good point because I haven't heard that from any major media outlet, and I listen to a lot of them, right? Try to be knowledgeable. And I don't think I've ever heard someone make that point. So I did hear someone make this point, and it does sure up everything you just said. Taking out, which, by the way, I want to do like a full-blown like two-pointers podcast when we have a budget of $1 trillion one day. I want to do a full-on like James Harden, like how big of a failure that truly was for the Brooklyn Nets. Like, they literally gave up basically their draft capital for James Harden, who a year later became a Philadelphia 76er. I just don't understand. So,
and then they're going to lose the two guys that are supposed to keep them afloat. And those picks are about to...
It's just like... I have no idea what's about to happen with those. It's just... Houston's going to be
Rockets fans have been so happy.
Oh, yeah.
The past few days.
Watching it implode.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't win a division title, James Harden aside, who wasn't healthy for most of his time in Brooklyn. Quote-unquote, wasn't healthy.
For any of them?
Hard to... Well, hold on. That's what I'm getting at. Kind of. Hard to win a division title when you literally, in your 3 years together, play 44 games. That was the number I wanted to bring to the table for this, like...
Is that just Kyrie and KD, or is that the three of them?
Just KD, Kyrie. The two that initially came to the team that were going to build around them, none of us saw James Harden coming in 2019, let's be honest, right? So that's the part where we were like, you knew that these two guys, at least in your basis, were going to be able to win you a division title, maybe an Eastern Conference, maybe a Finals, right? It was almost an expectation when you have Kevin Durant on your team. 44 games together. That's the part where I go, all else aside, I don't care if I know nothing else about the situation. It was an utter failure. And that's just where we are to this moment. And this is us breaking down and destroying the Nets situation. But how can we make it better? Let's assume Kevin Durant, like at this point, he has no leverage. So
No,
realistically,
Yeah.
he could be a Brooklyn Net in 3 months. How
There's
that plays
even
out,
more to
beside me, I
this
don't know.
story that comes. It's a massive shock because Kevin Durant is under contract for 4 more seasons in
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
that's a lot.
Things went very wrong very fast, clearly. Some different news that's come out. A rumored quote coming out of Brooklyn is that Joe Tsai would rather go 41-41 and be in the play-in tournament with a team that he was proud of than win a title with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, was a quote that came out. That is a loaded thing. Like, that is a seriously messed up relationship that is going on here. And I'm not blaming Joe Tsai at all. I tend to take his side. Like, how do you manage, like, owning a team and partnering with a guy like Kyrie Irving who you just don't know if he's going to come into work that day?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I will say this: it is partly his fault, only because of the fact that that's ultimately him and Sean Marks' choice to bring those two
Yep.
in. Which, like I said earlier,
And the
I would've
power
done the
they
same
gave
thing.
them. They gave them
100%.
so much leeway that
It-
they couldn't take it back.
It's a battered relationship, but it's also one of those things where you go, well, I almost agree with him because ultimately, like I said earlier, I think player empowerment might have gone a little too far. Maybe in just this situation alone. I haven't really looked in other situations to kind of really form that full opinion, but yeah, it's a loaded statement, but like I almost don't disagree with him because he, as an owner, your job is to win an NBA championship. Now, I guess it's not.
As an
right,
owner, your
ultimately.
job is to do whatever you want.
Right.
As a
Fair.
GM, your job is to win an NBA championship.
Fair. If you're a good owner, you want to make money and win a championship ultimately. And Josiah is nothing short of somebody that's respected, and I think he's lost that bit of respect. And I think this is just kind of his play on what he can with what he's got left, where he's got to be able to make the right move to get them out of here. I just don't see a resolve that makes any sense, which is why we're here to talk about trade destinations for the next minute or two. So I just that statement's just so loaded to me. I don't know how to unpack it. I saw it. I just kind of like I read it a couple times. I put it down. I came back to it a couple hours later, and I'm like, yeah, I almost don't disagree with him.
Well, I think what's telling, and you've talked about this as well, the number of teams that are interested in Kevin Durant are endless. The number of teams that are interested in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving
Or
is
one.
one. And we'll get to that later. But that's just
brother.
only one team wants to do what Josiah went through the past 3 years, and it's only because that team has accidentally played themselves into a corner that's not entirely their fault. But trade destinations, open it up for us.
So the only two I have, and I want this to be chalk because I just don't. We have so much to cover, and I just don't want to overload myself and you with things that may be possible that don't actually end up being possible. So I have two that are completely mainstream. We've all talked about them for the last 7 days. We all being the media, and just what it entails. I want your thoughts around them because for those that are new here, we talk about basketball in a text thread with multiple people and each other every single day, like we should as NBA fans. The problem is we try to keep our thoughts on the actual bulk and validity of these stories to when you guys hear them. So I don't necessarily know what Josh thinks about some of these destinations, these packages, etc. But I do know that we probably can agree that it's Phoenix right now and Miami are kind of these two, just somebody that can offer Godfather trades. That's what I'm going to call them for the sake of this episode. They're Godfather trades. That's what Woj has reported. Over 15 teams have at least inquired.
One can, Phoenix can. I do not think Miami can.
All right, so we'll start with that one packet. Is it just a matter of, is it the draft capital? Is it the fact that Tyler Hero's not a big enough main piece in that? Or is it the Donovan Mitchell part of it? Because the reason I said
Tyler Hero's not a big enough main piece.
Okay.
The hope, and it's what people didn't seem to understand going into it, was Brooklyn. The hope would be that Bam Adebayo is the piece, right?
Which is not happening.
Which can't
100%.
happen. It would
right.
be against the rules in the NBA.
That's right. The
So
CBA.
the unfortunate thing that Brooklyn has done They cannot acquire through trade two players who are on NBA rookie max extensions. If you were a team that has a player of yours that is on a rookie max extension, you can acquire another. Ben Simmons is forgotten about, and all of this is on an NBA rookie max extension. He was not drafted by the Brooklyn Nets, clearly. They can thus not acquire a Bam Adebayo or a Donovan Mitchell or any player that is on a NBA rookie max extension in a trade by trading away Kevin Durant, unless they send Ben Simmons.
Wait, so then DeAndre Ayton's not possible, correct?
No, he's not. Well,
they would have to send Ben Simmons.
Did not sign the extension. That's why he's a free agent.
It's a sign and trade, though.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be. So the NBA rookie max extension is signed
by the original
Ayton
team.
Could not sign a max and get traded to Brooklyn. He could sign less and get traded to Brooklyn. Why would he do that?
For DeAndre Ayton.
Which is why that doesn't really work there either.
Why
his name hasn't really been in the trade talks. Like, of all of the pieces that Phoenix has, because he's a free agent and can do what he wants, and because he wouldn't be able to take his max to go, I haven't seen his name there as much in the Phoenix deal.
So then where does... this is not a DeAndre Ayton, hypothetical, because we obviously haven't addressed that. We've talked about it before, since at least all of this has happened. I just don't know where he goes then. That's besides the point. I don't think...
He, I think, wants to go somewhere where he's going to feel respected, which seems to be what he didn't feel in Phoenix.
A
team that really wants him in the offense.
And want to pay him, to be clear.
And wants to give him a max contract.
So then that'll be a whole other thing to unpack later then, on another show. Because that's...
Who's going to give it to him? I do not know.
At this point, I don't think there's anybody that has both of those things. That's where we are.
If Charlotte had not drafted Mark Williams, maybe then, but...
Yeah, I don't know. So then Miami, for me, the Miami holdup was less about the fact that they can ask for these Godfather trade packages all they want, but with no leverage whatsoever, they can essentially
the best thing get Miami can offer is Lowry, Hero, and picks, which just isn't there.
It's not, and
that's not remotely the best offer. It is way far down the list as far as the offers go that are coming in.
Well, and that's part of the reason I brought them up is because I think it's less about that and it's more about the fact that they put in an official trade request for Donovan Mitchell. So they have other plans because of the overpayingness of Kevin Durant. However, I think with zero leverage, I think we're going to get to a point people don't understand. I think we're going to get to a point where either he returns to Brooklyn, it's just this awkward back and forth for the next 82 games, or we get to a point where the offers will have to be lower. You're not going to get this Godfather package. The counterpoint I would sit here and try to Ryan Russillo myself, where I try to make sure I openly bring up what the counterpoint with me from you or from social media is well, Rudy Gobert obviously hauled in this humongous draft capital and leveraged an entire future around Minnesota. So maybe if Rudy Gobert's worth that much, obviously Kevin Durant should be worth more than that. So maybe that's my counterpoint there. I just can't rule out anything with Pat Riley. That's the other thing. I just can't rule out Pat Riley in any scenario that involves winning something. I think is the best way I'm trying to word that. Winning something. I just think the Donovan Mitchell piece is what threw me off the scent. Donovan Mitchell is what threw me off of it officially.
I don't think it's the best move for I just don't see anything that works out in Miami. A lot of people are looking at this from the perspective of where Kevin Durant says he wants to play, and that's why Miami has been high in the possibility here, because he requested a trade, and his agent put out and named Phoenix and Miami off the bat. So that's why everyone's focusing on those. I want to come back to the point of he doesn't have leverage. None. Well, Brooklyn, the worst thing they could do right now is take a lowball offer. Because he's on contract for 4 years. His career is in the hands of the Brooklyn Nets. Because they don't have to move him. They don't have to. They can sit and pay him until he either acquiesces to play for them or acquiesces to go where the best offer is. I don't think they should take a lowball offer. They wait until he agrees to go to the offer that's best. Some people aren't going to like that from the player empowerment standpoint, but he signed a contract. He's got to uphold his side of the agreement. That's just how the world works. Phoenix, I still think is possible. But Phoenix doesn't want to do what it's going to take. It's going to take Devin Booker.
Nope.
All right, so moving on to the next one. Toronto.
That was my wild card.
Toronto is willing to make the package move. They've got a lot of young stars. A package centered around Scotty Barnes and a large number of draft picks, as well as looking at someone such as OG Anunoby would likely go in this trade, probably Chris Boucher. So you get those three starters, and then Toronto has quite good draft capital. It works well for them because they would still retain a core of Van Vliet, Siakam, and now Durant, which we've seen Ujiri put together before to win a championship under Nick Nurse in the Kawhi Leonard days. It just kind of makes a lot of sense for Toronto to do. The case is, like Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant would not want to go to Toronto. But once again, he doesn't have any leverage here. Another situation that may be one where he would want to go, and that could offer a good trade, that everyone in the NBA community is afraid of, is the current reigning NBA champion Golden State Warriors.
Before we unpack that ridiculous situation, I want to just give my 411 on the Raptors for two reasons. One, they were my wild card team, and the reason I went with the two other, with Phoenix and Miami as consensus, is because I'll be honest with you, with the complexity of the league and the complexity of the situation, at least after Sunday when Rudy Gobert was traded, I'll be honest, I went back to square one after Sunday. Like, I went back to square one and I went, I'm glad we did this on Tuesday and not Sunday night or, say, even early Monday. I just would have had less to think about the situation with Kevin Durant. I think the Raptors are my wildcard team only because of two reasons. One, reputation of doing it before. Obviously, Masai Ujiri wants to win a championship, and that's his.
They've got the blueprint to do something like this.
100%. They would be able to work around the pieces, make things work, sign small contracts, etc. They've done it. The Bucks way, the Raptors way, etc. Right, like the small market team that did the things that they needed to do to win the championship. My only point with that would be, as long as they don't give up Siakam, I'm all in on it. Because I think you have to have. I think if you're going to win a title, short term, to be completely clear, if you're going to win a title short term, by the way, short term is not the end of Kevin Durant's contract. It'll be 37, making $53 million, right? So you got to think with the league salary cap increase and such, it's not going to matter as much. But I think obviously it's going to hurt. Raptors fans are not going to love Scotty Barnes leaving, but they're obviously going to be really thrilled to say that they've had Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant on their team and won a championship potentially twice in less than 6 years. I think that's ridiculous. If any fan complains about that, I would slap them across the face if I could. But, mind you, if you keep, long story short, if you keep Siakam in that situation, then I'm happy. I think they can win a title with those three. The issue I would have a little pushback there was Fred VanVleet was important, obviously. He stepped up in the finals after struggling most of the playoffs. Kyle Lowry was a big piece of that. They would have to find that kind of defensive role there. This is not a Toronto Raptors championship lineup podcast. This is a Kevin Durant going there podcast. So those are my Toronto Raptor thoughts. I don't even know where to begin with Golden State.
So,
I don't. I don't want to be clear, but I'm gonna.
The potential idea with the Golden State trade is that here's why it makes sense. And one of our friends, so Grayson, longtime friend of the pod and complicated relationship with Kevin Durant, asked us if we thought that the Golden State stuff was all smoke and mirrors. You were kind of on that side. I kind of go back to, I don't think that they have a way of keeping this team together. I just, cap-wise, it's not conceivable. And I think Golden State recognizes, how do you win the most number of championships, further solidifying yourself as a dynasty? How do you win Bulls championships? Like, getting to 6. They're at 4. How do you win Bulls kind of championships, getting to 6? And the answer kind of comes down to being, you package up Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, James Wiseman. You hope it would be either Moody or Kuminga. And then you don't have to trade a lot of draft capital if you put all those names together, because that's a lot of good players. And you move them for Durant to bring back the team, Curry, Thompson, Durant, Green. And you can go win Bulls championships.
What even is the NBA anymore? This is
it
the fact that we're having
makes
this
a large amount of sense from their ownership standpoint. And it's not a way that mortgages their future either. They would essentially, instead of having this like weird half veteran, half young team.
That's true.
Which I don't think is a terrible plan. But it would be an all veteran team that's focus is winning now. They would retain their draft capital, and then they would be able to rebuild when it's time for their stars to retire.
Yeah, I would say it doesn't leverage. It leverages it short term. It does leverage their future short term. Obviously, the whole goal at that point would be to win a championship, be in the luxury tax, and call it a day, and just rake in cash. It would not leverage long term because you're good point there. Because obviously they would only probably give up 1 or 2 picks, maybe. In that
it wouldn't. They would still give up trading picks. The whole future though.
Yeah, it would be
which
safer.
I think is the key. And the picks they would give would be in the meantime, ones that they don't really care about all that much.
I think that's where kind of the negotiations would kind of kick in. I think they'd probably do some kind of long term pick swap, maybe one unprotected long term. That's not really the point, but can you win a championship with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant at this point in their career? Probably.
That lineup, when together, hasn't ever not won one.
For me, it's the stage of the career and the
yeah,
injuries, and there's things there.
There's an argument to be made that Durant and Curry together. Forget argument. Durant and Curry are 2 of the top 5 players in the world right now.
100%
today.
So my problem is, have they backed themselves in the corner where like that's their only option? Kind of, because you laid out the case with the contract situation. They let Gary Payton go. We'll talk about that in a minute.
It's not Golden State's only option. It just may be
the only option
one
to win
of
a
the better options. Yeah,
that's the part I'm struggling with.
If you want to like really stack the deck to go be the Chicago Bulls franchise,
this is how you do it.
If you want to be like just in that era of great, like in that call of great teams, you're talking the '90s Bulls, the Showtime Lakers, Bill Russell's Celtics, Bird's Celtics.
This is where you go.
This is how you get to that. So there's a very select group that were that dominant for that amount of time, and they could completely solidify that by doing this. They are great teams that don't end up in that conversation.
So what scares me about this conversation is going into this, I wanted to be open-minded, and leaving this, I think that's legitimately the best possible package, and I just don't see how that doesn't happen at this point.
So there are other packages, but there are ones that Kevin Durant probably wouldn't agree to. One of the teams that's best positioned.
He doesn't have no trade clause.
But
he doesn't have no trade clause.
There would be hesitancy from some owners to do it. The team, like, say Kevin Durant's whims don't matter. If the Oklahoma City Thunder wanted to bring Kevin Durant back, they would win.
100%.
Period. The end. They wouldn't have to trade a single player. They could send approximately 50% of their draft capital.
And still have 17 picks.
A ridiculous stash.
Still have 17 picks left over.
And bring in Kevin Durant without sending a single guy out.
So
then there's the team that should be going all in, but it doesn't seem like Durant wants to play there, which kind of creates the dichotomy. The Denver Nuggets, I think, could make the big offer.
Yeah. You're talking Murray, Porter, be open
Murray,
here.
Porter,
and picks.
It would have to be both. You could potentially retain Porter if they don't want it. In a hypothetical trade, it could probably be Durant and Simmons for Murray and Porter.
Oh, Porter wouldn't be. Would he fall into that rookie?
Because I think
I think he might.
Yeah, it would be Durant and Simmons for Murray and Porter, which I could see a team wanting to do that.
Yeah.
Unless Murray and Porter are both on rookie maxes, which I want to say Murray is like past his, maybe.
Yeah, he is. It's so. Here's my. Again,
the Nuggets should be a team going all in. I don't see it happening, and I don't think it would.
Yeah, I don't think they should. I really don't. I
just think they're a team that, with the pieces and the capability, with the clock ticking, and it could behoove them to make a big move.
I don't think the clock's ticking, obviously, unless Porter Jr.'s health is completely shot after this season. So here's my. This is my. I don't want to spend forever on this, but I will just say this. This is partly a spoiler for next year. I think the Nuggets can win the West without a doubt next year without getting Kevin Durant. So I think that's where I am with them, and I'm willing to stay there for now.
With a healthy Michael Porter Jr.?
Yeah, assuming he's healthy.
Yeah.
And that's a big assumption. I get that.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's really not a ticking time bomb. You just signed Jokic, which is we'll just go ahead and hit this nail on the head here because we're doing a lot of time here. We're just keeping this here in thought. Like, Jokic just signed the biggest contract in NBA history. So, like, there's really not a time crunch here. I mean, obviously, for financial sake, you do want to take advantage of a window here where Jokic doesn't cost, $61 million. But, I mean, that number just sounds stupid out loud, but it's just what it is. the team that I'm going to throw at you, and I wanted to end with this because I wanted to ask you two questions, just kind of where we are. Let's do the temperature check now, because in case we have to do an emergency pod. Because at this point, we've done a James Harden emergency pod last year. We've got to do a Kevin Durant emergency pod. Like, it's just got it. You can't not. Like,
This
context
is a bigger deal than that.
Context is really important. I'd be willing to drop everything I'm doing to do that pod, even if it's 20 minutes, like it was last time.
I think, personal opinion, Kevin Durant is the third best basketball player in the world today. Some people have him higher. I do value Giannis and Nikola more, but
right now he is.
Like, that's a massive thing that somebody that big, like a name that big, shouldn't be moving in a trade. But it'd
be like if Patrick Mahomes was like, "Hey, I want out."
Like, yeah, it would
really?
Be something.
Do you?
If Mahomes, Allen, or Jackson, those quarterbacks were like, "We're gonna go for it." Yeah.
Whoever the one of those three is, this is not an NFL podcast, but if one of those three were like, "Hey, I want out," we'd be like, "What?" Like, excuse me. Anyway, so my last one, is Portland even possible?
No. They don't have attractive enough capital to make that move.
You would have to take Simmons back to get Simons. I know that's confusing, Simmons for Simons.
Yeah, and the fact that the crown jewel piece of that trade is Anthony Simons is just, it's a non-starter.
Well, and that's it. If you're Portland, I guess I want to ask it this way. Because of the Damian Lillard stuff, the way they've done a really good job, I have to say they've done a really good job retooling this year, whether their plan is one thing or the other. We're seeing what they want to do. You obviously have Shaedon Sharp in there too, don't forget. Like, that's a big piece there. But if I'm Portland, my question would be, if I'm Portland, because of the Damian Lillard situation and potentially signing a $50 million max for 2 years, is currently the plan for Damian Lillard, who wants to be convinced further. Let's be clear, that was on the record by The Athletic this week. If I'm Portland, or if I'm asking to you, if you're Portland, do you try to make a Kevin Durant push? Because you can't be the best. You're trying. I agree. I think you have to, because at this point, even if you're not the best package, you have to.
You're not close to the best package.
But if the leverage starts to
capital to do that,
if the leverage starts to come down, Portland can still be in that position to make that deal. That's the thing I think is so possible.
Portland, if the leverage comes down, I see one of his 100%. Preferred destinations ending up being the place.
That's fair. Yeah, Miami.
The best case for your teams, like Toronto, is doing a great job of taking advantage of the fact that Kevin Durant doesn't have leverage, and they have a great package to go after it.
Okay, so I wanted to ask this earlier, but like, would it end up being a situation where, you know, he goes there begrudgingly, he's relatively kind of public about his opinion, depending on the type of platform, and he goes and he plays the season in Toronto, they make the second round, whatever the case may be, and then we're back in the same predicament next year. He's like, I want to trade. Like, I just don't see that fun for anybody involved, whether it be us, the fans, the NBA, the teams involved, Kevin Durant. Like, that's not fun for anybody. So I almost want him to go to somewhere he wants, but I also don't, because I don't like either of those teams for him. So it's just, I like the Portland deal. I really do. I think Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant would be an unbelievable pairing, and I think it's just one of those things at that point your package around them just isn't. It's just those two. It really is. It would be a very poor rotation around them.
Yeah. And I could talk more teams that could create offers, but it's kind of pointless at this point.
Yeah, where we are is what we've addressed so far.
Those teams are the ones that I feel would actually consider making those deals. There's your Celtics that could make an offer who won't put together what's needed. You have,
to be fair, if it's Danny Ainge in Boston right now, that completely is a different opinion in my.
Ainge would definitely not give what was needed. Ainge is incredibly conservative about what he gives up.
He would be at least be having those phone calls very heavily. I just don't.
Yeah, see but he's not the conversation is going to be, since in Phoenix it's Devin Booker must be involved or it doesn't happen. In Boston, it's a Jason Tatum's coming to Brooklyn or it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen. You see my point?
Yeah.
I don't think that the Jaylen Brown package that Celtics fans like to talk themselves into being possible would actually
all the
happen.
time. Like, at this point, his relationship with them should be sour.
They think that Jaylen Brown can land them any player.
How many Celtics.blog.com have thrown him into Jaylen
Brown for Anthony Davis? Yeah. No.
Anyway, this is tough.
So the last question that's kind of hanging on the radar, and this is less of a Kevin Durant discussion, but since it's out there, to quote Brian Windhorst on First Take, there's one package that they're saying of a team that would take Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers.
The Brian Windhorst, by the way.
I'm not done yet. Most NBA teams would not consider going through what Brooklyn went through last year if they had options. The Lakers don't have any options.
This is the same Brian Windhorst, by the way, who his entire career was shaped and began covering LeBron. Just take that with a grain of salt. For 17 and a half years, his whole career was
He's
following
got a point,
LeBron.
though.
Oh, no. No. I'm addressing that. I just want to be, for people who don't know Brian Windhorst's career, look it up. It's a really, really funny story. And he's a reputable guy, one of the most trustworthy guys in the industry. Super nice. So, I'm just going to attack this head on, because at this point, this is where I've landed. You made the point earlier, and I'm just going to hammer it, and then we can move on. Honest to goodness. I really don't, you will understand. They have backed themselves in the corner, partly not their fault. Totally understandable. However,
so they didn't expect that Anthony Davis was just going to not play in games.
They also didn't expect Russell Westbrook to be the worst possible player at any point.
Some
in his
people,
career. He's obviously
a lot of
gonna
people
decline.
predicted that wouldn't work.
The fit would not work.
Yeah.
Just because the fit didn't work doesn't mean his play has not declined as well. So where I am with it, and I'm just going to address this for all the people that have asked, all the people that have pestered. You know who you are. You might not be watching this. So I am right now. I'm to the point where I am totally fine with some kind of package around them too. But at this point, I can't fathom the fact that Anthony Davis would be the part that leaves. Now, with that being said, they won a title because of them bringing in Anthony Davis. So I think at that point, if I have to wipe the slate clean, great. Would Kevin Durant want to play there? That's the ultimate question where I'm at. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I want to say he'd be okay with it, of the options. You as a Lakers fan, just tell me point blank. Would you prefer or not prefer a lineup or a big three of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James versus what you had?
Would I prefer those three over what we currly have?
If that was what was going in next year, okay.
Yeah. Common sense. Here's the thing, though. Here's where I've landed for, you know who you are. I have landed on the fact that I would have taken him on a mid-level exception and just called it a day. Russell Westbrook would have been the greatest sixth man next year. Would have been unbelievable. I'd have put all my money on him winning sixth man of the year. All jokes aside, that's not actually the case. I really would have loved Kyrie Irving if it was just Kyrie Irving, because at that point, there's less things that can go wrong. It's a one-year mid-level exception. You take a chance on it. LeBron, all the reports this week that I don't begrudgingly want to admit, all of those reports were LeBron. That's what he's pushing. He wants Kyrie Irving. At this point, that means Russell Westbrook's relationship with LeBron has obviously been tarnished, and that's what where we are. It could have been prevented. It could have been a Kyrie only, and now I'm to the point where I'm not ruling anything out with those three, technically, because LeBron obviously is not going to go anywhere in that deal. And I have to cut the emotional tie with Anthony Davis if that's the case. So, common sense basketball take here. You have a team with Kevin Durant and LeBron James. It's like when KD and Steph got together. It was like when you have these two together, all else really doesn't matter. Cool. Yeah. So that's fine. You have LeBron. I don't care if it's 37-year-old LeBron and how old is Kevin Durant? Am I forgetting his age right now? He is 33 years old. Wow, he feels so. That number sounds so young out loud. He's still in the prime of his career. And you get those two together on a basketball team. I don't care who the heck the point guard is. I don't care if it's Pablo Prigioni coming back and making an appearance in the NBA. It does not matter. Shout out to Pablo Prigioni. But anyway, all right, I'm done. That is where I've landed, where common sense basketball, of course I would want that for any team. But I just don't know. I think we're at this, and that's why I wanted to just not have this segment take 28 minutes, but it has. We've reached this ultimate stalemate with this situation where, honest to goodness, we might not have another update on either side for the next 30 days. And I'm honest to goodness okay with that, because I need a break from the NBA for about a month. It's really okay. I don't watch summer league. Sorry to NBA fans, unless I'm going in a couple years like we plan to do. I don't plan to watch summer league, so it's just kind of this nice mental break. And then Kevin Durant has to screw all that up for a second time in my NBA fandom. So I am finished with the Kevin Durant part of this, if you are. I would like to go over a couple of lovely trades and signings that I think were really good for everyone involved. And
yeah, I think we've overtalked this.
No, I think we've done a good job.
I think
I'm optimistic.
I think after the Durant trade happens, wherever it happens. I think the Kyrie to LA trade gets done. I think Russ goes to Brooklyn, and it's Kyrie, LeBron, and AD. I think that eventually happens. I don't think it'll happen until after Kevin Durant is traded. So
That's fine.
as for how long that goes, that'll be out there. But I think that is eventually the destination. You want to kick off with big free agent signings, or do you want me to recap all the trades that we've had?
Let's hit the trades
post-draft?
quickly. Let's hit the trades quickly because two of them are really important, and then one of them we'll get to.
So all the trades post-draft. June 28th, the Knicks offloaded Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, 2 future seconds, and cash considerations to Detroit to make room for what was eventually Jalen Brunson.
Correct.
June 29th, the Washington Wizards sent Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Ish Smith to the Denver Nuggets in exchange for Will Barton and Monte Morris. June 29th, the Atlanta Hawks trade to pick up DeJounte Murray, star point guard of the San Antonio Spurs, in exchange for Danilo Gallinari, who I think has already been bought out.
Already has, correct.
The Charlotte Hornets 2023 first round pick, Spurs Hawks 2025 second, 2025 first, sorry, 2027 first, and a future pick swap with Atlanta.
Let's stop on Atlanta. So what I'll do is we'll go through them and we'll stop. We'll spend like 2 minutes on each, like really fast, because we've had enough time now to think about it. The reason it is 2 minutes or less is because of time, and also we will also spend plenty of time on this when we do our Eastern Western previews. We'll talk more in depth about what those things mean once we see the full lineup construction. Really quickly, did you like the DeJounte Murray? And to be clear before I finish, did you like the fit with next to Trae Young?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a big opinion of that. You put 2 point guards together can work fine.
Yeah, okay. I'm not.
I think two guys who can't handle the ball together is where the problem comes in.
I'm not a fan of 2 point guards. I'm a fan of a 6'1" point guard who can't defend whatsoever, and I'm a fan of a 6'6" point guard that can do everything and defend really well. That is my clarity point with this. Is yes.
So that fixes a lot of Atlanta's backcourt problems.
It fixes pretty much all of them, and that's
not all of them. DeJounte is coming in as one of the few players on that team that can play defense.
Oh, all of the backcourt defense. Yeah, no, it didn't fix everything. I don't mean literally everything. I mean everything backcourt problem-wise. Trae can't rebound. Trae has to play make all the time. Trae cannot defend, and Trae has to score all the time. So DeJounte fixes all those problems. He does all of them very well. Last year he averaged 18, 8, and 8. That was my initial takeaway. If you had asked me that same question you asked me with the Kevin Durant reaction, that was my reaction to DeJounte Murray's trade was he does all those things. He fixes all the 3 things that Trae cannot do. Or can do, but needs more help with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's where I am with that. I did really like the fact that Danilo was in that, because at that point it frees up Danilo to go to a contender, which I'll talk about in a moment. So, but yes, he was officially bought out, and we'll talk about all that. So, I liked what they gave up. I don't think 3 was very hefty. I really don't. It felt like it was a good conglomerate. I will say this, though.
And a pick swap. So
this is
one of Atlanta's. There will be a year where if Atlanta's pick is more favorable than San Antonio's, which is unlikely, it would go to San Antonio instead.
Well, so on the San Antonio piece, really quick, I'll ask you the question on the other side was, what are they thinking? This is their best player since everything disbanded a few years ago. Why are they getting you can rebuild with DeJounte Murray? Am I wrong? What?
He is older than you think he is.
Really?
Okay. I think it's the key to it.
I really
liked
him in that draft. I really
was
did.
had nothing but good things to say about San Antonio on the way out.
Okay.
He's 25 years old right now.
Wow. Okay.
His describing of it was that he said the organization didn't want to see him waste his best years on a team that couldn't win currently. San Antonio has admitted that they're not in a spot where they can win right now, and they wanted to be good to a player that they have a great relationship with, which is a very noble thing to do, quite frankly.
And that's, and the fact that they were honest about not being able to win is what makes me feel better. I must have missed that quote in the scurry of all this. So, all right.
Yeah, those were DeJounte Murray's, that was his released statement about San Antonio.
That works.
So all things are still good between him and the front office there.
I expected nothing less from San Antonio's front office. So, moving forward, let's go to the next trade, and I'll stop you. I'm 30th, sure the last couple.
The Utah Jazz send Royce O'Neal to the Brooklyn Nets for a 2023 first-round pick.
League changing.
Very strange trade.
Well, kind of league changing, because literally it happened. That was the whole root of the Windhorse meme was, Yeah, they trade Royce O'Neal, and it's this warning shot, and then anyway, go ahead.
Did you watch like the 2.5
Oh, I did
minutes
multiple
of
times.
Wendy on
I
first take?
enjoyed
Yeah.
all of it. I
Very
enjoyed all of
strange
it.
trade. Very strange.
Very strange.
Very strange. It wasn't. The funniest thing about it is there was nothing groundbreaking in that Wendy was saying there,
100%.
but it was that the other three people on first take couldn't get it. Like they just didn't get it.
It was a cat and mouse game that was way over
like,
their heads.
Somehow it was way over their heads. It was a basic idea, but it was way over their heads.
I don't want to step any toes, but somehow it's not somehow. It's Brian Windhorst, an experienced NBA insider who has a lot of knowledge, but is not in a place currently where he can release things. In that moment, he can't release that story. Like he knew that was coming. Let's just be honest about this.
Oh, he was trying to tell everybody, like,
hey, this is happening.
Utah's gonna blow it up.
However, it's also a case in point of if Stephen A. Smith is on that show that he does not finish that 2-minute monologue.
No. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I think that nobody got it. It's because Stephen A. Smith would have got it.
He would have been like,
give him
what are you
credit.
telling me now?
These days, Stephen A. Smith is one of the best insiders on First Take.
Yeah.
I think he's an incredibly good basketball commentator. Amazing basketball analyst and commentator.
Yeah. He's made it to a point where the Brian Windhorst thing was just all the more gold because he wasn't there, which is kind of sad. So that's not the point we're talking about, but go ahead. Royce O'Neal, it happened. Got it.
July 1st, Atlanta Hawks send Kevin Huerter to the Sacramento Kings for Justin Holiday, Mo Harkless, and a 2024 lottery-protected first-round pick. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, let's come back to that one. If you know, you know.
July 1st, Indiana Pacers send Malcolm Brogdon to the Boston Celtics in exchange for, here's the full package because it didn't break immediately, Nick Stauskas, Malik Fitz, Juwan Morgan, Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, and a 2023 first-round pick.
So a whole lot of nothing and a pick.
Not a whole lot of nothing. Tice and Nesmith.
Tice would be rotational big. I mean, a whole lot of nothing outside of those two. Those two were the ones
Nesmith is a good shooter of a young prospect. And the Celtics' first-round pick this coming season.
He's the Aaron Holiday replacement. Let's just be honest. Like, for Indiana, he's the Aaron Holiday replacement. He's the Aaron Holiday.
Very different players, but okay.
They let him go. That was the young piece they kept. They're officially in rebuild mode, obviously.
Yeah.
It's less about the Pacers part of it for me. It's obviously I don't care about the return. It's completely for me how the fact that if Malcolm Brogdon plays 60 games for the Celtics, then it's a complete win. And it's exactly what they were missing last year, a guy that can get hot
100%.
and play make 30 seconds. Just that's what I want out of this, and that's what they got.
It was a huge win for Indiana because they had found quite an inability to get anything for Malcolm Brogdon for quite a while.
I think it got to that point, complacent for a little while there.
They had not been able to get anyone, especially at the trade deadline. They couldn't get any good offers for Malcolm Brogdon. And to get a pretty nice return, neither team was robbed. This was just a mutually beneficial trade for both sides.
Yeah, even if you're not high on the pieces that they got back, it still works out for both sides because ultimately
but there's still
contract.
Pieces. Like
there is.
Indiana's in a place where it just
money.
makes no sense to hang on to a guy that's being paid that much that isn't going to be there in your rebuild. Instead, take a chance. Let's go get a young piece. Let's go get a draft pick. See what happens.
100%. No, those two are great. I was more focused on the Nesmith pick anyway, and it's more about the fact that it gives them cap flexibility and leverage with Miles Turner trades potentially too, because they have more money now to be able to make more money work depending on what they want to do with Miles moving.
I mean, they have all the cap flexibility. There are no big contracts other than maybe Miles Turner on their roster.
All right, keep rolling. Let's go because I have a couple of actual signings I want to touch on.
Last one, July 1st, the Utah Jazz sends Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, Leandro Bolmaro, and 4 first-round picks.
So, I would feel wrong to start this one. So I want your initial reaction to...
Technically 5, because Kessler's there.
Yeah, 5 picks.
My initial reaction. So I had seen earlier in the day that Minnesota was in trade talks for Rudy.
I had not.
I had seen that much.
Shock to me. That was
I had no idea this was the market for Gobert.
Really? As good as you think about him, really?
Yeah.
That much?
Okay. It was huge.
Okay.
I don't think it's a mistake by Minnesota. A lot of people seem to think this is a mistake from Minnesota.
I do. I'm in that camp. let's just do
You
this
think it
now.
was a Minnesota
Oh, I'm
mistake.
100%
Okay.
Matt Camp.
I don't think it's a mistake by Minnesota. I think they paid a lot.
They did. I think that's part of the mistake. That was the asking price. Can I give you mine?
For small market teams,
yeah,
this is what it takes sometimes.
100%.
And I will always respect a small market team doing what it takes to contend in a world where a Golden State Warriors or a Los Angeles Clippers or a Boston Celtics don't have to give up this kind of stuff to get a player like this. They can wait till that guy's a free agent and sign them. The Minnesota Timberwolves can't do that. And they made their decision is they're going to contend. They've got their guys, and they're going to go contend. And he's a piece that fits great into Minnesota's offense. And he gets out of a bad situation with a bad teammate in Utah.
I love all that part
and gets to go play in a really good spot.
I agree with the getting out of the situation that ultimately was going to blow up in his face anyway. So I'll keep it short because I do think this is going to... We do need to take some time on this one. Like, think about it. I'd love to spend 15...
And of course, like, everyone else is going to have a different opinion because I think that Rudy Gobert is that Hall of Fame level talent. He's probably the best defender we've ever seen in the NBA.
I'll leave that one. So
name another defender that has been as dominant as Rudy Gobert. There should be some that you can put in there with him, but
dominant, no.
Yeah,
but
I think that there's no clear stated player that's a greater defender than Rudy Gobert. That doesn't have an argument for it. Where there's no argument about it.
Do they have to have won a Defensive Player of the Year to be in that argument?
Isn't that kind of part of it? He's
I would argue
three.
I would argue Kawhi Leonard's a better defender all time than Rudy Gobert, but that's another point for another day. Mm-hmm. I want to keep it short and sweet because I do think we need to spend 15, 20 minutes on this at some point, and I think it'd be good because I think we need time with this trade because I think it's one of those ones where we go initially, wow, it was a lot. I am in that camp. I do think it was a lot.
I do think it was a lot. I think it was more than what he was worth. But I don't think it was a bad idea at the end of the day.
No, I don't know. I don't think it was a bad idea necessarily. I do think it will eventually. I will end up being... I'll say this. I think I'll eventually... Me and all the people that are on the opposite of you will end up being right, is my point. But right now, it's too early to tell that. I want to be clear that I do not think it's like the Bill Simmons, like one of the worst trades in the last 30 years. I do not want to say that.
Is that
I'm
what Bill Simmons said?
Far with this. 100%. He was like one of the worst trades he's seen in the last 30 years. Like... What I will push back with that I think is
probably upset Boston didn't get him.
No, I don't think. I don't think it has anything to do with Boston there.
Bill Simmons is known for being a biased sports reporter.
He is.
That's why I'm just making that point.
It has nothing to do with the Boston piece. What I think it has, I like the small market point, but I also want people to really understand this. It also has a lot to do with new owner syndrome. And I don't have 45 minutes to talk about new owner syndrome, but it's a really, really good thing that a lot of people have talked about for many, many years. Essentially, when a new owner comes in, they make a big deal that goes. The owner says, goes to the GM, who, by the way, we never talked about this, but Tim Connolly is the new GM in Minnesota, Denver's former GM. They gave him, assets in the company. They gave him the most money of any GM, like all that stuff, right? Like Tim Connolly is deservingly worth it, right? He drafted Nikola Jokic, he built what Denver had a lot of great picks, had a lot of bad picks, whatever, right? But it's new owner syndrome. It is Tim Connolly saying to the owners, like, I can get Rudy Gobert. This is what's going to cost me. The owner says, we can afford it. This is what we want to do. We want to win. We want to be part of this, right? They do that. They pay for it. They know what it costs.
One thing to be clear, the Minnesota Timberwolves new owners that purchased the team have not taken over yet.
Correct.
They don't yet own the team.
But it's the point of, like, they want to make a new splash with a new GM and a new owner, regardless. New team, rising team, whatever, right? In this case, to me, it's less about all of that. In terms of what I feel about it, it's basketball-wise, Anthony Edwards is 21 years old, or will be 21 years old this season. Rudy Gobert will be, 34, I think, at the end of his contract, with making, $51 million. And Karl Anthony Towns and the basketball fit-wise, I'm not a fan of. So, at least in terms of initial reaction, oh, yeah, that's why I want to spend more time on this later, because I just don't. When your teams are going to do the same thing they've always done, they're going to pull him out, and then they're going to have two bigs they're going to be running around that aren't going to be able to defend the perimeter as well. Karl Anthony Towns is a subpar defender anyway.
Well, they don't need Towns to defend. There are a lot of other good defenders on Minnesota's team. This isn't a Utah situation.
They gave up a lot of them in the trade. They gave up the defenders that I like in the trade. Jaden McDaniels is what's left of that. Patrick Beverley's gone. D'Angelo Russell's a very subpar defender. Anthony Edwards is not your stout defender just yet, and that's my point about him being 21 is Gobert's going to be, and he's going to decline eventually, whether he's already done it or not, right? That's another point. But if he's going to eventually be declined near the end of this contract, and Anthony Edwards will be to a point where he's going to be excelling at the highest level in your prime in the NBA, which I think is a little earlier than it used to be. But he's going to be in that stage, and Gobert's going to be another stage, and I just don't think it's going to work. I just don't. That's the part where I think we're going to long term be right about.
You say it in that way. I would say it in one. They can try to win now. They have become a threat in the Western Conference now.
They can try to win now. That's great, yeah. But Anthony Edwards.
But when Rudy Gobert's contract will come up, and Anthony Edwards is coming into this mid-20s stage, the Timberwolves are then going to have cap flexibility.
That's a good
point.
With
Gobert coming out the
long
term
that happens.
Make changes, yeah.
Yeah, assuming that's how it plays out. Yeah, that's a way you could look at it. And I just, with him already being 30 years old, him being Rudy Gobert in this situation, at the end of this contract he'll be 33, so I was a little early on that. 33, 34 is an unrestricted free agent.
He's so much younger than I thought he was.
$46 million. So, yes, cap flexibility and that yearly cash, it's going to go up and all that stuff, don't get me wrong. But I think it's in a situation where the timing has to be perfect, and I just think for what they gave up, the timing may not be perfect, and they basically leveraged their entire, we talked about the future, leveraging your future earlier with some of those other trades, and they've leveraged their future right this moment with Rudy Gobert, and I'm just not sure I'm a fan of it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Cat, they let's say they don't win a playoff series for 2 more years, which I think is totally possible. If they don't win a playoff series next 2 years, is Cat the next guy to be like, this sucks, I'm out? He's part of that generation that's done that. I don't know.
If Cat was going to do that, I think he already would have done it. Yeah. He's been in for a period of time where everyone thought he was going to do that by now. And then he signed a huge extension. He's, as much as people want to believe that guys can't be happy in small markets, Karl Anthony Towns is happy in Minnesota. I know that a lot of people don't like that. The big market news reporters and the media are going to blatantly call you out. Don't like it when a guy's having a small market. They want to see the big stars leave the small markets. They want to see LaMelo Ball leave the small market. They want to see Karl Anthony Towns leave it. They want to see Damian Lillard leave the small market. Some guys actually enjoy playing in the teams with the teams they play for.
Anthony Edwards does. That's a good point.
Karl Anthony Towns is clearly happy in Minnesota. And it would be stupid of them to not try to contend with their stars that are currently happy there. That's how you keep them happy in the first place.
Another reason I don't want to spend forever on this is, A, we're at almost 45, 50 minutes, and Rudy Gobert and this situation around how the team will be built may change a little bit as they make small signings, etc. And then our thoughts on where they finish in the West, I think, is going to be really important with that conversation. Because we're going to have a few months to really do that. We're going to do the same format we did last year. We'll do East, West, and you'll get a full hour and a half of the West and basically be like, okay, that's why he has Minnesota at 6. Or whatever, right? Wherever we end up with them. So... any other? That was the last trade, correct? As of, we haven't had any big ones in 2 days. So let's just rapid fire this, because I think the free agents, otherwise the market has been pretty lackluster in terms of just re-signing rookie maxes, etc. I'm going to throw a couple of ones that I like at you, like in terms of obviously Jalen Brunson. I just really quick want to hear your thoughts on that. We'll start with that one, but the Jalen Brunson thing, and then I'll just rapid fire a couple of teams that have done some things that I like, maybe I didn't like, and we'll just kind of really quick, like 30 seconds, boom, 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 some of these signings, because I think that's where we are with free agency. So let's start with Jalen Brunson. The New York Knicks signed Jalen Brunson to a little bit less than we expected, to the 4-year, and ended up being around the 104, I believe I'm correct on that off the top of my head. I'm not looking this up to my screen. That I could literally do that too right here. But I think it ended up being like less than what was originally reported. I think it was like the 23 million range. So are you in or out? Were you happy with Jalen Brunson? However you want to word it.
It's the Knicks being the Knicks, man.
That's it. That's do you like it? Like, are you
no?
You don't. Okay. So
and no diss at Jalen Brunson, but like the stuff that, like, all the draft capital, all the role players that were part of that team that actually, like, got the 4 seed in the playoffs 2 years ago, which props to the Knicks that they ever got that done in the first place.
Yeah, honestly.
That have been given up to make room for Jalen Brunson, who, again, all respect to him, love him as a player. He is one of, like, those guys that I'm a big fan of in the NBA. Love Jalen Brunson. Has had one breakout year. and you're going to give him this big contract to be your guy next to RJ Barrett. This better work because they've given away every other option.
If it doesn't work, it's going to be bad.
They have backed themselves into a corner where Jalen Brunson better be able to punch his way out of it for them, or they are screwed.
So my only point on Jalen Brunson is I'm hopeful for the fact that this is the best point guard that they've had since Charlie Ward. Like, literally. Like, 94 was the best player they've had since Charlie Ward at point guard.
Yeah, they've had the first round pick to re-sign since Charlie Ward.
That was really quick. I will just tell you right now, I did not love Mitchell Robinson signing for that much money, but I think for the market and what he was going to get paid versus
for a guy like him, those big rim defending bigs, that's costs nowadays.
Yeah, no, when this is deals that I did like and didn't like, so I'm just throwing them at you. I did like Isaiah Hartenstein for 2 years though. That was one that I really did.
That's not a bad move.
For I think $16 million for the entirety of the contract.
Hartenstein was he's in one of those under the radar free agent moves. That's a good one.
Well, also he didn't get enough tick on the Clippers, which I think will be fun because
he's a talented guy. It's a good pickup.
He'll get tick on the Knicks for sure. I'll throw out Danilo Gallinari because it's officially happened as of today, I think. But Danilo Gallinari,
I have not seen it yet.
If it hasn't, either way, it's that is what's happening. Probably the Celtics are going to sign Danilo Gallinari after being bought out by the Spurs. I think the buyout may be officially happening, but regardless, Danilo Gallinari is probably going to be a Boston Celtic. I'm going to go with the fact that he probably is. I really enjoyed that just because I think the Malcolm Brogdon thing solves a lot of the ball handling issues. Obviously, not that Smart couldn't do all those things in the finals, but I do like the fact that when they couldn't score, obviously Danilo Gallinari can't stop the Warriors, but he can at least try to score with them in that situation in Game 5, especially Game 5 is where they really needed him. And I think he's a great piece for them. I think they play him like 18 minutes a game in the regular season, and then they play him like 26 in the playoffs at that point. I think it's a really good signing. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really kind of Boston going back to when they had their midseason trade a couple years ago for Evan Fournier that worked out so well. It's kind of a similar move. They're bringing a scorer back in who's an incredibly talented shooter for when the team goes cold like they did in the finals. Correct. It's not a bad idea.
I liked T.J. Warren to the Brooklyn Nets solely based on the fact that that 1 year deal is essentially a proving ground deal that somebody was going to give him, and he deserves it. Mm-hmm. He's a lot better player. This is not NC State bias.
He's an incredible player.
He's an incredible player, and he can score with some of the
snake bitten with injuries.
100%. He can score with some of the best ones. That's not just the bubble. He was scoring 18 before the bubble. Like, people don't understand that. T.J. Warren's a good scorer in this league, and I think he can recover from that. Kind of the Victor Oladipo contract.
I have never been a guy who was low on T.J. Warren, the basketball player.
Yeah.
I'm low on T.J. Warren, the body.
Yeah.
Is where
that's
I'm
a good
low.
point. Yeah. No, and that's where he is with his career now. Mm-hmm. Zach LaVine on the 5-year deal. Don't love it, don't hate it. I just want to
good job, Chicago.
They kept him.
Yep.
100%.
That's a win. It's a big win for Chicago.
I'll be honest, I was shocked by Goran Dragic going to Chicago. I really was. I really thought that was a done deal to Dallas, especially after losing Brunson. I don't really care, I'll be honest with you, at this stage in Goran Dragic's career. A lot of guards there, and I just don't think it really matters.
Move
it's a strange
by
fit,
Chicago.
for sure.
I'll have a little bit about that to talk about later, but we'll get there.
I loved Andre Drummond on a 2-year prove-it contract, team option 2nd year. The whole thing with Chicago, they played Tony Bradley way more minutes than they should have last year. They needed a big that could do anything other than what Nikola Vucevic was giving them. Andre Drummond loved it.
I think he's still an incredible rebounder. You got to hope that the
100%.
defense doesn't lose a step.
The Cavs did everything they should have done. I think they did everything right. Darius Garland on a 5-year extension, who, by the way, 2 years ago was voted or was statistically the worst player in the NBA in his rookie year. And it's just sad to see that 2 years ago, and people were writing him off, and obviously here we are. He earned every bit of that after being an all-star last year. They got Ricky Rubio officially back on a 3-year deal, who, by the way, was contemplating never coming back to the NBA about 6 months ago. So shout out to Ricky Rubio.
You're talking about a guy in Rubio who was just having a monster year before he got hurt in Cleveland
100%.
last season.
Had a great year.
Very under the radar, monster early part of the year before his
could have been one of the things that potentially tanked them down the stretch and not having him there. And then Robin Lopez, whether you like him or hate him at this point in his
Forgot
career,
he was still in the league.
Yeah, but he's like 1 year.
Who did he play for last season?
Washington.
2 years ago, he was in Milwaukee. I don't know who he played for last season.
Washington.
Okay. You could be right or wrong. I don't know. I don't really care.
Washington. He's a great serviceable backup big. I love JaVale McGee to Dallas. Didn't necessarily love the
Very
money.
good
That's
for
what
Dallas.
he's worth.
Yeah.
That's what he's worth. Ultimately, that's what happens. Loved
That's we're
everything.
gonna go try win move by Dallas. Yeah.
100%. Oh, they needed him last year. You could not play. Literally, you could not play Kleber at one point and Powell. They both
No,
were
yeah.
unplayable. We've already talked about this. Your man Nikola Jokic just got the biggest contract in NBA history, 5-year extension, completely worth it, 100%. I didn't love DeAndre Jordan. I don't love DeAndre Jordan at any point at this point in his career. I loved Bruce Brown, guy that can cut off the ball, take a pass from Jokic, unbelievable guy for that. Aaron Gordon type role for Bruce Brown, but with less scoring. I liked Detroit again. Full circle on this Detroit thing. I loved giving Marvin Bagley a deal just to play it out and see what happens. Obviously, I'm not necessarily.
Well, yeah, you got to keep him after making
37
that
million.
trade for him.
37 million is a lot. I'll be honest for a guy who hasn't really done anything. Kevin Knox is another one I liked. Dante DiVincenzo being the replacement for Gary Payton was a little intrigued by that.
No. I saw that and I'm just like, how does Golden State continue to manage to get better?
The figure on it, what was weird. I don't want to break down all the numbers and stuff, but it's just, would you rather have right now Gary Payton or Dante DiVincenzo?
DiVincenzo?
Me too. I'm like, what? Like, but Gary Payton's so good. I don't understand. They officially got Kevon Looney back. I did not know that until just looking at this. A 3-year deal. Don't have the numbers in front of me. I like Jayshawn Tate back to the Rockets. I'd love to hear James Pierce's thoughts on that this offseason.
Oh, that's interesting. I would have thought Tate would have tried to. I mean, he just feels like to me a guy that any contender would just love to put on the team.
I agree. But he's still
any playoff team would love to put on, and it just kind of surprised me.
He's not a young rookie or young guy,
Yeah.
but he's an inexperienced young guy.
Yeah.
Who's 28 years old. Anyway, I loved everything that the Clippers did. I don't hate the John Wall signing like most people do. I just, at that point, let him play.
See if it works. I mean, it's not going to hurt him. So
for me, it's going to come down to the attitude. Is he going to be mad about some nights not playing? Because at this point, the Clippers might be the deepest team in the NBA, and I don't think that's close. Let's just hit the Lakers signings really quick. They signed Juan Toscano-Anderson, Troy Brown Jr., Damian Jones, Lonnie Walker. I like Lonnie Walker. Don't like any of the other ones. Moving on.
I don't like Lonnie Walker.
At that point, if that's all they could get, I'd like to give him a chance.
They made some moves.
Kind of like the Malik Monk role last year. We'll get through these really quick here. So Memphis Grizzlies, I absolutely cannot fathom the fact they got Tyus Jones back. I thought he was gone. I thought somebody was paying him that or more. He ended up coming back on $30 million. Good job. They really that could cement the fact that they could win a playoff series or more next year, like multiple, and just keep. He's going to be more important regular season. He's obviously not a stout defender, but I loved the signing for them to be able to get Tyus Jones back. John Morant agreed to a 5-year extension. The Grizzlies also officially signed, as we were recording this, Kennedy Chandler to a 4-year, $7.1 million rookie deal, which was the largest guaranteed salary of $4.94 million for an American second-round pick. So they're going to have guard depth, which is really awesome when they had Ja not playing last year. Victor Oladipo back on a 1-year prove-it deal again. The Bucks brought back Portis. They got Ingles, Wesley Matthews, Javon Carter, Serge Ibaka. Loved all those.
Underrated move to bring Ingles in.
We talked about the Timberwolves. I like Kyle Anderson on the 2-year deal. Dort got his bag. Shout out Grayson, 5-year deal. A lot of money. Mo Bamba returns to the Magic on a 2-year deal. PJ Tucker got a whopping $37 million. He'll be 40 years old when that contract concludes. Shout out to PJ Tucker. I think I'm just still trying to process that one. He got a bag. I think he can help them win. The Suns re-signed Devin Booker to a 4-year extension, and they had a couple of 1-year pieces of Koji, Biyombo, Damian Lee, etc. And then I liked everything that I can't believe I'm saying this. I liked everything that the Blazers did. The 4-year extension, I don't care if Simons got overpaid. Got Nurkic back, even if it's a trade piece, went down the road. And then Gary Payton, I think he got the bag deservingly. So,
I've heard word is that there was actually some real unrest in the Warriors locker room that they let Payton walk. So clearly a guy that's quite beloved on his team, which is a good thing for Portland to bring in.
Well, this is the same Gary Payton, and then we can move on really quick to the Hornets situation before we do saving Sacramento, almost at the hour mark. So, really quick, this is the Gary Payton that the Warriors were in press conferences saying that if he didn't come back in time for the finals, they might not win the finals. Like that, they're Warriors players and coaches saying that. So, Really quickly, I want to give you the time that's deserved with the Charlotte Hornets situation. They re-signed Cody Martin, which I think is an unbelievable deal, 4-year deal. I don't know the exact number. It was
Love
not a lot
Cody.
of money.
32.
32, great number.
80
32 is good. That's not bad. You get a guy that's a piece down the road if you don't
for
want
a
him
guy
anymore.
who was taken, I think 54th.
Yeah,
Is what
no.
he's become.
Former guy that played in state for a little
Yep.
while, then went to Nevada. All the good things there, right?
From Davie County High School. He's not far from Charlotte.
So that's not the unfortunate. I'm
That's
setting this
not
up
the
so
story that we're
yeah,
getting.
I'm setting this up so that I can get out of the way because at this point I have nothing to say about it really, other than where I just think I need to be public about this case of the legal battle here. I just want to leave with this before I mute myself. What we know right now, it's just not pretty, and I'm not happy for anyone involved, and I just want this to get resolved the best way it can, which right now is nobody giving him a contract until the NBA steps in. So that is where I'll leave you at the 59-minute mark before we do Saving Sacramento, which I think would be a more positive topic after this week. So you have the floor, my friend.
I think it's a good thing that I've had a lot of time to reflect about this.
I also agree. I just want to be completely clear. I'm so glad that you said that.
I became a Charlotte basketball fan in 2005. I don't think I've ever personally been more disappointed in a player. It's coming from someone who was a huge fan of Miles Bridges. Basketball player, the teammate. It's just horrifying what he's done. And things go back to wondering, like, you start looking at the organization sometimes, like, how could you not have known this was happening? How did no one, like, on the team do anything? I understand, like, things can happen. They probably didn't know. A lot of times this stuff goes hidden. I'm so glad that his wife was willing to speak out about what was happening. I feel so horrible for her and their children. I mean, if you can't, what my opinion was, it's not about basketball at this point. I am happy that we're not going to have someone like that playing for the team I support any longer. And Miles Bridges, he's done horrible things and let so many people down. It's a terrible situation for the Hornets to be in. I feel for them. I think they're making the right choices right now. They are, I guess at this point, investigating. They kind of just quietly rescinded the qualifying offer with it, and they haven't made any public statement beyond investigation. Whatever happens legally will play out there. I'm not going to make a comment about legal proceedings. But yeah, it's not much more to say.
Bigger than basketball. I'll leave it with that because ultimately we'll find out what the future is going to hold with the situation.
I think it was the morning after, so 2 days after the report of him getting arrested, the morning after his wife released all the information she did, that I tweeted out I'd be incredibly disappointed in the Charlotte Hornets as an organization if they didn't rescind Miles Bridges' qualifying offer. And I'm very thankful that the franchise I love did the right thing. They need to continue to do the right thing in this situation. They need to continue to do more. But
yeah, that's the point we've reached. Is it's like I said, bigger than basketball, and they need to have done the right thing and at least put him in the situation where he understands the mistake he made. And there's enough here now that I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, I'm not a abuse investigator.
And I hope that the organization
enough is out there
is properly enough working to support his wife. in
Right.
this process.
100%. But
That's what I mean by continuing to do the right thing.
Yeah, you know enough now. We know enough now as the public that it's probably what happened, and unfortunately, that's just what we have to deal with moving forward, consequence-wise. And that's just somebody may give him a contract down the road. That's just beyond what we know now. That's what we have to leave it with. So, why I said earlier on a brighter note, by the way, we'll go ahead and like smoothly transition into saving Sacramento because I cannot believe I'm saying that. I'm literally getting chills saying this.
Yeah.
I like everything they did. So let's just talk about saving Sacramento.
Before we go there, can I talk about the Hornets and stuff that isn't Miles Bridges?
I thought Cody Martin was it, but sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's well, just because things have kind of irreparably changed now, and obviously, and it's tough for the Hornets that they can't really focus on basketball at this point. But looking into a basketball sense of where you go now, is you've got to make other moves to move forward. One rumor that I don't know how credible it is, I believe it from Charlotte's side, I don't know where it is from Chicago's side, is a deal about Lonzo Ball moving to Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. I remember
It
that.
is a deal that would move Terry Rozier, as much as I love Terry, to Chicago, who would be a player who's had less injury struggles and is a more polished scorer on a team that has too many point guards right now.
They're getting rid of their best
on
one. That's the
roster.
part I can understand.
Yeah, but to have a lot of point guards on roster, Terry Rozier is also a point guard. So
That's true.
I love everything about that possibility. That's all it's like, really. I mean, I think
If it didn't come from Rob
excellent
Boone, I don't
thing to
believe
do
it.
for your star player to bring his brother there, and that there's a very real possibility that all three balls could play for the same NBA team next season.
I don't know enough about it to sit here and be like, I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I know I've seen some Chicago fans, Nick Levere, that aren't
like
very
it.
happy about the rumor.
Well, to be fair,
Which I get
what
it,
said
Nick.
earlier-
I understand.
What I said earlier was, if it didn't come from Rod Boone, I don't believe it, and I will stand by that. And at this point, I just don't understand logistically why Chicago, who, by the way, have moved on from being idiots in free agency and trades, at least for the most part, moving
But
forward.
why did they sign Goran Dragic?
Why would they get rid of their best point guard, who they, by the way, lost a draft pick to get last year? So just a lot of things there I just don't understand. Lonzo Ball is a way better player than that for them. I just don't understand. He's going to be the reason that they win a playoff series next year. If they
A
keep
way
him
better
so.
player than Terry Rozier?
Way better player than what they would have in return in general, whether it be Terry or somebody else. Obviously, it's just my point is, oh yeah, no, I don't. I think for what they need, I don't necessarily. We can't debate here. I mean, you can sit here and debate who's better between the two, but regardless, what they had, the way they've built their team, they need a true point guard. They need a defender. They need a guy that's got some size and length and all that stuff. Lonzo Ball does all those things. They got him for a reason. They paid him a decent contract. It's not like he's overpaid by any means. He's actually paid almost kind of underpaid at this point. So I think for Chicago, I would be floored if that deal comes through my phone in the next 3 weeks or less. It just.
And the last thing I'd like to see Charlotte make a move on is, still sticking with the theme of brothers, bring back Caleb Martin to play in the rotation. He excelled when he left to go to Miami. He is yet to be snapped up by any team. Bring him back into the system that kind of trained him up to be a pro basketball player, and let him work in the rotation there. But those are my thoughts.
Saving Sacramento. Like I said earlier, before we transitioned, I liked everything they did. I cannot believe saying that.
I mean,
I'm floored by this.
Shockingly great.
Contenders? Question mark. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That
They
was the
want to
only-
be.
that was the only bad joke I'm going to make today.
I love Kevin Herter. What did
I like
they
what
move
they
for
gave
him
up,
again?
too.
It was they moved
wasn't a lot.
Harkless and who was the other?
It wasn't a lot. I don't particularly care. They got the best player in the deal.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm a guy in NBA history, if you can get the best player in the deal, I don't really care what you give up, depending on the situation around it. So, I like it.
Justin
less from
Holiday,
Kevin Huerter.
but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The guy a guy that we should take credit for, who we said was going to be on the move if we were in charge. So it might have been a matter of.
Did we? Yeah,
I think we did. We were like, hey, Justin Holiday's a leverageable asset, and there you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to us for getting that right. That's the whole point of the segment, is try to get this job. So, I like the Malik Monk signing. That's what I wanted to talk about because I was all over that. Like De'Aaron Fox is all over that. So was Malik Monk. They are thrilled to play together again. And if there's anything that team needs right now, is a little bit of camaraderie. So they're getting camaraderie from Malik Monk. Great, so be it. I love it. I'm here for it.
The team chemistry boost for the Malik Monk signing is great.
Oh yeah, Kevin Huerter's a good teammate too. Don't yeah, we can't discredit
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm just the on court play for
It's to be
the
determined.
Malik Monk signing
It's to be determined.
is spotty.
Well, so I'm gonna say this
Yeah.
because I think we need to be honest with ourselves. I want to correct ourselves from a while back. We did Saving Sacramento. We've done a couple of them now, so I don't remember which one. But we, for some reason, thought Buddy Hield was still on the Kings at one point. We said it, and we both said it, and I was
Did
editing
we?
the show. Oh yeah. Oh, and I want to be full. Like, let's just be transparent with each other.
Plays in
and
Indiana now.
Uh-huh. And we both said it on here. We were like something about Buddy Hield in the rotation. I don't remember. I was editing it and I couldn't believe we said it. So he would replace some of that what they had with Buddy Hield. Kevin Huerter would do that as well. My problem,
Replace it in the aggregate, yeah.
yeah, my problem is, and if this is, I don't know how we're going to spin this into what we would do, but with running high on time here, I at least want to say that I just the only thing I didn't like about everything they did is that right now anybody shorter than 6'6" right now, the only person that can guard anybody shorter than 6'6" right now is Davion Mitchell, who is 6 foot tall. I, I'm a little hesitant on backcourt depth there in terms of who's going to guard somebody, but I mean, you're trying to make the play in. You just have to outscore people to make the play in, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where you were going to take this. I just initially wanted to make sure my love of Malik Monk was put out there because I'm proud of him. I really think that he can kind of turn things around here. I didn't hate him in Charlotte. I obviously loved him in LA. He was one of the few bright spots for that team for quite a few bits of stretches there. So
Yeah,
where
I
are we at
think
with
Monk
saving
is
Sacramento?
great for maintaining good player office relations with Fox. Kevin Herter is a great basketball player who's a great
Yeah.
pickup. I don't understand why Atlanta wanted to move him. From their side, I don't get it. But
DeAndre Ayton? Question mark. I don't know.
I don't know why Atlanta made that move.
Probably
The Keegan
DeAndre Ayton.
Murray pick is looking better and better every day. You don't watch Summer League, but in his first Summer League game, he looked like MJ. Guy went
Okay.
10 for 14 with 26 points and 8 boards,
Which is why I
running
don't watch
everybody
Summer
else
League,
off the court.
by the way. 100%
Yeah,
why I
but
don't
it was
watch
just
Summer
like there were so many shocked faces on social media. They were like, oh, he got lucky, he hit a lot of threes. Guy shot 40% from three in college. He didn't get lucky, he can shoot.
He's a good player.
So, all that to be said, I'm taking credit for saying they should take Keegan Murray over Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, that's where we are. Anything that we need to discuss in terms
Sacramento
of what
will be
we would
expecting
do
that job
moving
offer
forward?
shortly.
Yeah,
No, it's kind of the where to go next. So here's state of the franchise of the Sacramento Kings. The roster right now looks like starting lineup: De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. Backups, first line backups: Donovan Mitchell, Malik Monk, Trey Lyles, Rashawn Holmes. Third line backups looks like Terrence Davis, Chimezi Matu, and Alex Lynn, who is somehow still in the NBA. They need one more wing player. They've got Josh Jackson and Jeremy Lamb that are pending free agents. If you're going on this contender side of things, I think extending an offer to bring back Jeremy Lamb is a good move for the Kings. Other free agents to go after, guys like Caleb Martin, could be good shouts for Sacramento to attempt if we're going down that route. Otherwise, they've shaped out a serviceable play-in team. But this is just kind of our whole point from the beginning, is that it just didn't make sense to win now for them. I think they have shaked out. They can make some noise in the play-in, but if that's their ceiling, I'm just not feeling great about the future.
So you mentioned wings. I'm trying to figure out right now who would be another free agent like out there that would be worth it for them. And you mentioned wing. I'll go forward. I'm just using the NBA's free agency tracker here. Unsigned forwards. I, I will say it is pretty slim pickings. You've got your like Jared Dudleys of the world, James Ennis's, Gary Clark, Aaron Baines is technically a forward. Yikes. Rondae Hollis Jefferson, Ursan Ilyasova, Luke Cornett, who officially got signed today, so that one doesn't count. TJ Leaf is not a bad shout, who was originally in Portland.
Um,
Yeah, it's slim pickings for sure.
if you're
That
thinking
was
win
a pretty
now, if you could convince him to play for you, Blake Griffin.
well.
There's
Oh,
Montrezl
that's a good one.
Harrell. The Hornets don't want to touch Montrezl Harrell. What you think of his felony charges could be your deciding factor on if you're a team like the Kings going after something like that. I think
Going to
Montrezl Harrell,
California,
while he
a
got
place.
felony charges, what he did would not be, well, it would still be illegal, but like let's be transparent with it. Miles Bridges was hit with a felony drug trafficking charge because he drove a bag of marijuana across state lines. When you put it
Yeah.
that way, is it that big of a deal for the NBA who has decided to stop testing for marijuana?
By the way, he would go to Sacramento, which is a California, which is a state that
Where it's legal to
looser
possess
laws.
it. The felony part was that he moved it across state lines, but
Ultimately, I think
I
what
don't
we
think
need to
Montrezl
do
Harrell is a bad
in long
option for
term.
the Kings.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
So where I want to end up with this, with the time we have, is we need to really sit back and go, what would we do? Because what we need to figure out right now is would we try to contend for play in?
No.
The answer would be no, right? But we don't have enough time to go through all the scenarios and what we would do to change the team currently moving forward or what we would have done differently. So as of right now, it's just a review of what they did. I really like what they did, and I think they make the play in? Guess we'll have to find out in a couple of weeks whenever we do the preview of the season. But spoiler, probably not. So with saving Sacramento, I'd like to spend some time in the future going over what what we potentially could do differently to make it kind of change up. Maybe a trade deadline move looking forward, or what we would have done differently. How we can make a trade this offseason to blow it up if that's what we want to do. Because ultimately, the team needs to stink to be good moving forward. I think it's just kind of the next step. But that's all part of the fun of the Saving Sacramento segment is where we'll ultimately agree or disagree and where we end up with this. So I think we should spend in a future episode time on what we want to do moving forward because what they're doing and what we want to do is what we want to differentiate in this Saving Sacramento segment. How can we save them? Make them suck for a while maybe and then build them up. I don't know. So, any other thoughts on free agency, the NBA in the last couple of days? I know a lot's been happening, a lot's been going on. People at Summer League having a bunch of fun. Some of our guys we know, it's been a lot of fun seeing them out there. Uh, just in general, the NBA has just been a chaos of a storm. Anything that you have before we get out of here?
Nothing more in the NBA. I had two non-NBA stories I wanted to touch on shortly prior to ending.
Okay.
One is still the continuing imprisonment of Brittany Griner in Russia. One of the top stars of the WNBA has been in prison for drug possession in Russia for, it seems like, months on end. The U.S. government needs to do more to... Russia is clearly... I'm never mind. Stop. I'm stopping myself from saying anything else. The U.S. government needs to do more to bring her home. I think as a basketball podcast, we would be remiss to not mention this. That was occurring. The second, massive shakeup in college basketball over the weekend as the University of Southern California and the University of California at Los Angeles will be making the move to the Big Ten Conference by 2024 for all sports. It's a college sports-wide news push, but for one of the most, if not the most, historic franchise in college basketball moving to the Big Ten Conference in UCLA.
Yeah, for us, that's going to be interesting to discuss in 2 years. I guess not this year, but next year.
Yeah.
Their implications of who they play in conference and rivalries that we didn't see coming and rivalries that we'll lose and things like that and just fun matchups. Yeah, first gut reaction, obviously it was football, right? Or it was just, it was driven.
Football's the reason.
It's the driven.
But
yeah,
it's still very much
it's the driving
heavy
force.
impacts on basketball. Yeah.
Driving force, and I look forward to covering college basketball more next year with you because it's gonna something we've touched on. We're not going to share thoughts publicly just yet on what our plans are, but just know we do have big plans for college basketball next year, and we do look forward to covering it more, better. Obviously, that won't affect a lot of that because UCLA and USC will not be moving until the year after. But it will not be the last shakeup, I think. Obviously, there will be more coming.
No.
Oh, yeah. Love it or hate it.
Based on things I've seen today, and some of it's very hazy, we may be coming with a big update about the Big 12 Conference and potentially a complete dissolution of the Pac-12 Conference.
Yep, I saw that too. Crazy.
So just leave that story open for as it continues.
We're on page about 2 or 3 of a 400-page book. We're good. We're here. The book's open.
Texas and Oklahoma got us started about 10 months ago, and this is going to keep rolling.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. Really quick, social plugs because we haven't done those in a while. Twitter at 2Pointers, Instagram, TikTok is at 2Pointers Podcast, Facebook.com/2Pointers Podcast, and I feel like we haven't talked about it enough. YouTube. If you're listening to this right now, I'll say it at the beginning. I'll add something in later maybe. But if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, hit download and then go over to YouTube and watch it on there. We appreciate it because downloads, shares, likes, comments, subscribe, all of it. We greatly appreciate all the support. It's been a huge year. This is just kind of like, this isn't the last podcast per se of the year, but the way I worded it to Josh earlier was once free agency of this season concludes, this season is officially over and we officially have the offseason to deal with and go over things that we have planned. But it's just a matter of, this is just an informal thank you. Just all the support's been unbelievable on YouTube. I've a couple hundred views now. We appreciate everything you guys have been doing for us. Subscribers, downloads, all of the stuff. International viewers, like I said, we've seen those in the podcast feed. It's been unbelievable to see the outreach. Russia and India and Ukraine and France, and this is literally just off last episode. New Zealand, yeah, this was just the last 2 episodes.
Singapore,
all of these places, unbelievable outreach. We appreciate all of you, wherever you are. But this is just my informal. Wanted to say that because I feel like we haven't done that in a long time. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Josh, close us out.
And if you're our fan from Singapore, please reach out. We have some questions. With that being said, this has been the 2Pointers Podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Trevor.
And we will see you soon.